Good afternoon. My name is Gary Smith, and I wanted to welcome all of you to the 5th Annual Blues at Timbuctoo in its inaugural virtual format. Since its inception a little over 5 years ago, we have begun each concert with a passage from Robert Kennedy's speech in Cape Town, South Africa in 1966, given at the height of the apartheid struggle there. Bobby said, "Few will have the greatness to bend history itself, but each of us can work to change a small portion of events, and in the total of all those acts will be written the history of this generation." He said, "Each time a man stands for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. Only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly." It is this new idealism which is also, I believe, the common heritage of a generation which has learned that while efficiency can lead to the camps at Auschwitz or the streets of Budapest, only the ideals of humanity and love can climb the hills of Acropolis. This, of course, became known as Bobby's Ripple of Hope speech. Please join us now in 2020 as we again toss our pebble into that clear and tranquil pond at John Brown's farm with the blues at Timbuctoo.
We're on the grounds of John Brown's farm, radical abolitionist. We're here at the exhibit of Dreaming of Timbuctoo, the exhibition. We have some great virtual performances from musicians that have played past years of Blues at Timbuctoo for you. But before then, a word from Martha Swan, director of John Brown Lives.
Welcome to the 5th Annual Blues at Timbuctoo concert and conversation. As Jerry mentioned, because of the COVID pandemic, we're coming to you virtually from here in the heart of the Adirondack Mountains, where abolitionists John and Mary Brown chose to make their home in the late 1840s to be good neighbors and a support to Black pioneering families who preceded them here, carving out of the wilderness a scattering of homesteads that came to be called Timbuctoo. These free Black New Yorkers came in 1846, the vanguard of a scheme of justice and benevolence to challenge discriminatory voting laws and to build a life from their own labor on the land. My name is Martha Swan, and I'm the director of John Brown Lives, a freedom education and human rights project, and the New York State Friends Group of this historic site. The John Brown Farm is a site of conscience. It's the final resting place of Brown and several Harper's Ferry raiders, black men and white, who died to end slavery. And today, in the summer of 2020, it's the site of a memorial field for Black lives. John Brown Lives was founded to promote social justice and human rights through the exploration of issues, movements, and events, many rooted in history, played out on this landscape and the John Brown story. Our task is to engage the public in addressing what the late historian James O. Horton describes as slavery's diversity, longevity, complexity, and centrality, and in reckoning with slavery's many legacies that persist today. We believe that the John Brown Farm has a vital and urgent role to play in confronting our unreconciled past as a sacred shrine and human rights destination, and as a center for teaching, learning, reflection, and dialogue that not only exposes the roots and fault lines of white supremacy, but also offers the Brown story as a direct and embodied challenge to that ideology, a way forward. That way forward also requires acknowledging, commemorating, and celebrating the extraordinary contributions of Black America to America and our collective indebtedness to the peoples of Africa and their descendants. It's in this spirit that we bring you our 5th annual Blues at Timbuctoo, inspired initially by a plea made by Jerry Duggar to a small Lake Placid audience several years ago to reboot the conversation on race in our country and bring us together.
Glory, glory, hallelujah.
Let's get started with the music. Let's hear from Jerry Duggar.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Like that river I've been running ever since. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know change is gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. I don't know what's out there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know change is gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Will I go to the movies and I go downtown? I got people telling me, boy, don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know change is gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Yes it will. Then I go to my brother. Myself knocked down, knocked right back down on my knees. There were times that I thought I could not go on, but now I find the strength to carry on. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know, change is gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Yes it will. I know, change is gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Yes it will.
Here, before God, in the presence of these witnesses, from this time, I consecrate my life to the destruction of slavery. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Hill.
Hey, greetings. It's Michael Hill with my friend James Baldwin, and have we got a story for you. 12 presidents of the United States of America were slave owners, including Thomas Jefferson. Now, Thomas had a captive woman named Sally Hemings who had 6 children. And some people were kind of suspicious, but historians insisted for decades it was not possible that Thomas Jefferson was the father of Sally's children. Well, along came DNA, and the cat was out of the bag. Just goes to show, you never know what might be happening on a Monticello night. Sally's got a baby. Rumors are being spun. Wondering about the daddy. Guessing who's the one. 'Cause the baby has the look of Thomas Jefferson. She was a slave girl. He owned her from age 3. Only sweet 14. He took her across the sea. Way across the sea. Sister so fine. Put a slave owner to his knees. She did, you know that she did. Sally's got a baby. Truth is in the lie. She was a slave in the daytime, but his lover on Monticello nights. He took the girl to Paris, began another life, kept her in Virginia, his unofficial wife. Sally's got a baby. Truth is in the lie. She was a slave in the daytime, but his lover on Monticello nights. Sally's got a baby. Sally's got 6 babies. tears and the light. About those Monticello nights, Monticello nights. You wonder, was it true love? Can you love your slave? Is it true love? Can you love your slave? Does your slave, you believe that your slave loves you? Baby.
The intent and not the deed is in our power, and therefore, who dares greatly does greatly. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dave Keys.
with grace, love, and forgiveness.
I am quite certain that the crimes of this guilty land will never be purged away but with blood. I had, as I now think vainly, flattered myself that without very much bloodshed it might be done. Ladies and gentlemen, Yacouba Sissoko. Ladies and gentlemen, Alexis P. Suter.
Lord have mercy. Yeah. Lord have mercy. Yeah. Lord have mercy. Yeah. Lord have mercy. Yeah. Lord have mercy, free my soul. Lord have mercy, make me whole. Lord have mercy, free my soul. Lord have mercy, make me whole. Ah, yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, hey, 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 Lord have mercy, free my soul. Lord have mercy, hear them cry. 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 Lord have mercy, oh, Lord have mercy, oh, Lord have mercy, hey, Lord have mercy, hey. My people die, Lord. My people dying. 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 Oh, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah. Lord have mercy. Save my soul. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, save my soul. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, save my soul.
I think we have time for one more song, and Jerry has something pretty special in mind for us. Take us out, Jerry.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening sky. Let it resound loud as the roaring sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Jerry, thank you for that incredible performance. Thank you to all the musicians who've given so much here today. Thank you especially to Jerry for taking us on this journey, for coming to the John Brown Farm and being with us here. Thank you to Gary Smith for helping pull this whole thing together. Thank you to all of you for spending this time with us, for tuning in. We hope we'll see you next year for Blues at Timbuctoo, hopefully at the John Brown Farm. In the meantime, stay safe, be well, and if you'd like to make a contribution Hi, everybody. I'm not sure if we're supposed to start yet. I think so. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Martha Swan. I'm the director of John Brown Lives and the proud co-producer of this of Blues at Timbuctoo and the film that you just saw. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. It's a beautiful day here in the Adirondacks, a beautiful November day. Normally, we would have met in September under the open skies at the John Brown Farm. And we certainly hope we can do that again next year. I'm really very pleased to introduce the panelists who are here with us today. Dr. Margaret Washington, Lavada Nahon, and Jerry Duggar. I think Jerry's there somewhere, although I don't see him right now at the moment. Hopefully he'll be joining us very soon. Margaret is a professor of American history at Cornell University. She is a regular guest historian on PBS programs, the History Channel, CNN, numerous sources. She's a source, a go-to source for the deep exploration of our history, particularly as it pertains to African American history, women's history, and religious history in the United States. She's the author of the award-winning biography of Sojourner Truth called Sojourner Truth's America. And I'm proud to say she's a member of the John Brown Lives Board. Thank you, Margaret. Lavada Nahon is a scholar, independent scholar, and a culinary historian, where she really focuses on mid-Atlantic 17th, 18th, and 19th century, and what the culinary history of the region, of the period, tells us about the lives of people who were enslaved in New York State, then called New Netherland. And she really works to bring that history into the centers of the stories of the lives of enslaved New Yorkers and the families that they very often worked for. She describes in her website that her mother gave birth to 3 daughters, one to sew, one to cook, and one to clean, and she was the cook. She's also the New York State, she is the an interpreter of African American history for the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. So it's a real pleasure that you're with us. And Jerry, I hope you're there somewhere. Jerry Duggar is an incredible vocalist and musician, as you just all witnessed. He's the director, the musical director of Blues at Timbuctoo. He was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame in 2011 as the great blues artist of New York State. He's been a regular in the blues scene in the Village, Greenwich Village, for many years. And since the COVID epidemic, he's taken up residence in New Hampshire. So hopefully he's going to be with us. It's a pleasure. Oh, there he is. Jerry. Hi.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Can people hear? Okay. So how we're going to work this is with the chat feature. I'll do my best to pay attention and respond to maybe questions and remarks people might have in the chat. But let's open up, Jerry. I'd love to. There was a very brief reference at the beginning of the film to a plea you gave to a small Lake Placid audience a couple of years ago, which really gave rise to this concert. Could you take us back to that moment and give us a little bit of the history and some of your first impressions of being at the farm?
My first impression of being at the farm was that the energy was palpable. Is that you stepped on those grounds, you felt an energy that wasn't anywhere else. And as little as I knew about John Brown then, you guys provided all that information for me. I took a walk through the exhibit, and I read the exhibit, and I understood how important he was to the history of slavery abolition that he is. And excuse me. So I do remember having these overwhelming feelings that this was an important place and this was an important man. And my impression of the statue that is out in front of it was that he was walking step in step with the young man that he was leading out of slavery. And he wasn't in front of him, he wasn't pushing him from behind, he was in step with him with his arm around him. And that means a lot to me. That symbolism means a lot to me. In conversations with Gary at dinner, I just go back to socialization, that you fear what you don't know. And it was my musing that if we just did something as simple as have a communal dinner every once in a while, if you invited your neighbors over, if you socialize the children, then they would understand who you are and you would understand who they are, and then they have nothing to fear moving forward. That was what that was all about, and that's how this came about. Gary took it from there. All that was left for me to do really was to just gather the musicians that I thought were going to represent properly. And I think I chose well. I am not trying to pat myself on the back, but when I watch these performances, I get emotional. You know, I've read that some folks think that this is just an excuse to have another blues concert. It's not. It's obviously not. The performances you just witnessed state clearly that it is not, because we're not doing anything frivolous at all. We are bringing emotion and we're bringing history. Excuse me.
So, Jerry, I'm going to ask you to pause there so we can move on to some other points that I wanted to make sure we cover today. But I absolutely agree with you, and the appreciation to you for your sort of dedication to this whole enterprise, your trust and confidence in the whole enterprise, to bring your contacts, your friendships to this project together. It really is the heart and soul of everything that Blues at Timbuctoo is all about. So let's talk a little bit about what are the stories? I mean, here it is at a historic site. So what are some of the stories and the legacies that Blues at Timbuctoo might help to tell a broader audience? I remember when Gary first came to me with this idea of a blues concert with you, Jerry, and with others, one of the things he said was, people need to know about this farm. They need to know about John Brown. They need to know about Timbuctoo, and we need to draw them here. The people who aren't interested in history necessarily, who aren't interested in social justice and racial justice and reconciling with our history, they need to come here and, as you were saying, feel this place and get to know this place. So what are some of the ways that Blues at Timbuctoo, Lavada, if you want to chime in, that Blues at...
I want to just touch on something that Jerry had said. When he was saying that people could do this is another blues concert. But talking about blues is Black history. It is African Americans' history. It is about pain and the lives and the struggle.
Lavada, can you stop for a sec? There's something with your audio. Is that coming across for others?
Is that better?
No, it's very bubbly.
Speaking, I grab my headphones. Other things I was saying.
Nope, it's still, however you were set up when we, nope.
The chat room says they have bad audio as well.
Okay. Lavada, however you were set up when we were checking in earlier, that was perfect.
I was on the same unit.
Hold on, folks.
No problem.
on the same unit that I was using before.
Maybe sit back a little from your mic? No.
Are you using an interface?
I'm not. I was using, I'm tapped into a regular microphone that I was using earlier.
Jonathan Duda, our friend, is,
Let somebody else go.
yeah, but just one suggestion, maybe Lavada, if you can move to another location, or signing out, signing back in, going to another, okay. So Margaret, do you want to pick up on that?
Okay, what was your theme that you were
Well,
asking?
Yeah, what are some of the legacies, some of the stories that Blues at Timbuktoo can help deliver to a blues audience?
Well, from my perspective, and I adopt this from the former poet and activist Amiri Baraka, that African Americans are a blues people. And what is happening with Blues at Timbuktoo is narrating that blues, narrating the pathos, the love. I think one of the songs was Faith, Grace, Love, and Forgiveness. Those are definite blues themes. You can hear them in many blues songs, the narrations of life, history, culture, anger, laughter, tragedy. The song even had, I think one of the themes in it was trust, and implicit in it was esteem. Those are all part of the Black experience and part of the Black struggle. And like spirituals, blues is that music endemic to African Americans where they express all of those emotions. And what's so special about the blues is that even though it didn't evolve as a musical genre until after slavery, because it's so intertwined, and I don't know if the blues musicians would agree with this, but I think it is so intertwined with spirituals that it was in existence before freedom. It just wasn't called that.
Yes.
And so that, to me, the legacy of the blues goes all the way back to 1619 when we first embarked. We had the blues, and the trajectory of African Americans in the history of this country has been one of blues people. I think John Brown understood that, and being the kind of person he was, someone who cared deeply about republicanism, cared deeply about Christianity, and cared deeply about humanity, he immediately identified with the most oppressed people in this country. I also have to say parenthetically that one of the themes you mentioned, Martha, was the site where many of us are now sitting, which is Native American soil. And I want to acknowledge that I sit on the land of the Cayuga Nation, part of the Iroquois people here in Ithaca, New York.
So Margaret, would you take us, give listeners sort of a snapshot of what Timbuktoo was? The whole Garrett Smith land grant.
Yeah, well, Garrett Smith was the second biggest landowner in the state of New York, supposedly the second wealthiest man, and he owned much of the land in northern New York, around the Adirondacks, and a rich man who was also a philanthropist, and very political, and very much involved in the struggle for Black equal rights, which the state of New York did not adhere to. And so Garrett Smith wanted to create a space where African American men could farm and be able to meet the voting requirement. The voting requirement in the state of New York was, if you were Black, that you had to have $250 worth of property. And Gerrit Smith granted this land in the Adirondacks to families, many of them were urban men, if they would go up there and farm and improve the land to the point where it would be worth $250 and they could vote. So it was a voting rights, equal justice initiative on the part of Gerrit Smith, and John Brown was also given land there. Brown was a farmer, basically by trade, and was born into that kind of a background. So, and he was also a reformer, an abolitionist. So Gerrit Smith wanted him to be up there to help improve the land. Many of the Black men who went up there were city dwellers, so they didn't know very much about farming. And so that was John Brown's motivation for being there. There was also the situation of that being a very important jumping off place to get to Canada on the east through the Underground Railroad.
So a couple of threads here. One is, we know from the research that Amy Godine and others have done that there are references in correspondence between the Brown family and other settlers, that this one of these enclaves of Black settlement came to be, it was referred to as Timbuctoo in correspondence. Yes. And so when we think about the power of naming, the power of the name, to name something Timbuctoo. I mean, I don't know about others, but I grew up hearing this expression, to Timbuctoo and back again, not knowing that Timbuctoo was a real place until, I'm embarrassed to say, I was probably in my 40s. So, so walk us through that, the power of that naming.
Well, I mean, maybe Amy knows, but I actually don't know how the name evolved for the community. But the significance of choosing that, I'm certain it was certain that it had to have been an African derivative in terms of who came up with the idea. There are numbers of places in this period, towns that African Americans settled themselves, especially in Ohio and Indiana, where they took African names. There are a couple of small towns called Congo. So Timbuctoo is, to me, significant because Timbuctoo was a real place, but it was almost mythical in terms of the way it was presented because of the high level of culture, the many libraries that they had, the trade and commerce, the precious metals that ran through it. So it was a real place. It was an ancient city of great wealth and great learning, art, culture, and it was a Black city, an African city. So it was harking back to African greatness. I think that's why they chose that name.
I'm hoping I'm coming through clearly better.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
you are. Beautiful.
So I want to just step into something that Margaret said. She keeps saying was. Timbuctoo is an is. It's not a was. It is still a place. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite books about Timbuctoo actually is very recent, and it's called The Badass Librarians of Timbuctoo, and it recounts the recent struggle where librarians saved countless numbers of 15th, 16th century manuscripts and spiral from the libraries at Timbuctoo when the recent Islamic jihads. One of the things that we often want to think of in terms of the great history of places like Timbuctoo is that they are the past, but they are the present. Mm-hmm. And that is the legacy of African Americans that I think that even though for many people the name is a joke, back to Timbuctoo and back, that is a way for us to step into reclaiming our cultural heritage. is studying places like Timbuktu. Studying in New York, we have Congo, we have Angola, you have towns called Guinea. Like these are names that represent these early Black communities that were equivalent to Timbuktu. Although not on Garrett land, they are where the freed enslaved and the free of New York went and lived and built lives. And that's a great way for us to connect into our history and the pride that we have here in the state to share.
One of the things, now I think my audio's weird. Is my audio okay?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. I mean, because we've been, in a way, I feel like we've been gifted with this name, right? That the site, this settlement was gifted with this name, however it came about back in the 1840s, early 1850s. And for me, that's this incredible portal for us as the historic site, as people who love the site, who visit the site, who have a role in the caretaking and the programming at the site. It's a wonderful portal, I think, through which we can take ourselves and take others into looking at this place and this history that you're talking about, this place that is Timbuktu. And then, of course, there's the musical connection. Jerry, do you want to talk about that at all? The birthplace of the blues and how this, and maybe it's an exaggeration to say the birthplace of the blues, but what's the connection between the blues as we know it today and the music traditionally from Western Africa?
That would be a long conversation and a long explanation. Wow, Martha.
If I may, Jerry, not to override your music deal, but one of the things that people need to honor, Africans are singers. They are oral. They sing when they work, they sing when they do. And the words of the songs are the words that they live by, they live through. They are a reflection of their, like Margaret was saying, their everyday lives. So for me, I love having like some of the music from the concert was just, amazing, because I find when I'm working at a historic site and I'm out in the garden, I can't have a radio, I can't have anything. So what do I have? I have my voice. And it's like amazing the songs that come back to memory when you're in that space. Like when you sang Lift Every Voice and Sing, it was amazing. And I thank you for that gift. But even the creation of song on the spur, like I loved about Sally Hemings' Baby, because we think about music being static, but music is often created on the fly. It is as we're doing, it is the rhythm of our lives. So I think that that's definitely what I take away, when we want to link, Timbuktu and John Brown's farm and that whole area for the Blacks that were there. It is that everything we do, we go about our lives, we're singing all day. So the song permeates the air.
The thing about I love about the blues that I love is that you're telling your story. And that can go all the way back to West Africa, where the griots are educating the young children about the history of their tribes. Excuse me. And so they brought that oral history here. And of course, through time, it morphs, it changes. People go out, they write songs, and they tell the stories of their lives and of their tribes and their families. So if that would be the connection for me to, excuse me. Why is that there? I'm sorry, y'all. It's a continuation of the tradition of telling your story. And if in the blues that I love, if you're not really reaching out, if you're not reaching deep and telling the story of your life, whether anybody wants to hear it or not, then you're really not serving the blues at all. And all my favorite blues is personal, and the surprise to me, from Alexis to David to Yacouba, excuse me. I'm sorry, I'm missing one. And
Michael.
was that they didn't treat the music as, once again, they didn't treat the music as just another performance. They brought and wrote songs for this specific endeavor. And I was really surprised about it because there's nothing that I asked for. They understood the importance of not trivializing what we're doing. And I love them for it. Alexis brought me to tears. Yacouba brought me to tears. Everybody brought me to tears that afternoon because they did music I wasn't expecting. And I will love these guys forever. I do appreciate their talents. And for me to be lumped in, not lumped in, but what is the phrase I'm looking for? To join this group of musicians means the world to me because I respect and I love every one of them.
I think on our part, we need to try to be a little louder because there's some difficulties still with the audio. Jerry, you know, when you were in New York with Alexis and Michael and David and Yacouba, and you were sort of filing back stories of how that recording session was going in Prospect Park, it was so moving to hear what you had to say and the feeling that you and the others brought to that performance. And it certainly comes across in the film, but you know, this summer as you were filing back those text messages about how that day was going, it was pretty extraordinary.
I want to shout out Karl Schwarz also, because Karl, even though he's not credited, his voice and his musicality added so much to John Brown's Body is Molding in the Grave. Brilliant, just brilliant. Dear to you, Karl. I hope you're watching.
And let me add to that, Michael Hill's brother, Kevin,
yes,
who did the arrangement and the performance of the instrumental, right, for A Change Is Going to Come, that beautiful rendition. So thank you to Kevin as well. I wanted to go back to the issue of land that Margaret mentioned. Because in the 1840s, 1850s, this grand distribution of 120,000 acres of Adirondack land to 3,000 black male New Yorkers, it was called in its time a scheme of justice and benevolence, right? An unqualified good. But history is so seldom that neat and that tidy, because as Margaret, you were saying, I mean, this not only was Mohawk land, but is Mohawk land. So here we have sort of the imposition of a value system. Well, first there's the dispossession of land, and then the imposition of a value system of what private ownership of land and what that might entitle you to do. Really, it complicates the story a little bit. And I wonder if anyone would like to chime in on that.
Well, I know we talk about it being part of the necessity for the voting, right? For suffrage, you have to have $250 worth of ownership. But it is also how we're looking at how people thought Africans or those newly freed could advance themselves, make a better life, was to connect back to the land. I mean, land ownership all over the world has that power and that value. But it is always challenging. You know, it was great for him to give all the land, but at the same time, you know, the balance of that history is some of the land looked good on a map, but when it came to really working the land, that was a different issue. And then, you know, you can own the land, you can take this benevolent gift, but a lot of the settlers also never claimed the land. So it is that struggle within persons as we even move now. You know, everyone keeps, you know, the conversation around reparations is always linked back to land. we all need to just embrace the fact that no matter where we are in North America, South America, Central America, we're on indigenous land. So to honor that is to start by finding out whose land are you on. Like right now, I'm in Albany, so whose land am I on? I don't know. I know that when I'm in Peekskill, I'm on Wappinger land. So I have to like honor those who own this land, but there's always that change and there's always that shift. And that's about us coming to terms with the depth and breadth and richness of our history.
You know, Martha, it's also the case, in addition to what Lavada says, is that this is an ongoing struggle. I know in this region, there's still controversy over land ownership, particularly between the Seneca and the state of New York. So it's not over. I mean, it is in some areas. I mean, because, for example, Cornell sits on Cayuga land, and the Cayuga Nation, for all practical purposes, was wiped out by General Sullivan during the American Revolution. So there's no way that they're going to get that land back, but there are groups who are struggling and fighting to get some of their land back. So it's still an ongoing struggle, and I think it deserves respect and acknowledgement. And I can't help but, with the people who are still trying to reclaim part of it, like the Seneca people, can't help but think about the African-American struggle for reparations, and the effort to get this nation to acknowledge what was done to people of African descent over hundreds of years, and still goes on. In however way reparations is interpreted, the acknowledgement has never come that this was basically a form of genocide. It was a Holocaust. So there are some very definite parallels to that. And the fact that this struggle is going on, continues to go on in our country, in parts of the state of New York, and to a much larger degree in countries like Canada. Just tells you something about the structure of American society for the other.
It is always a challenge. I mean, that's one of I've been reading several books lately, and we talk about justice, and they were comparing America to like the Third Reich in Germany in Wilkinson's latest book, Caste. And, you know, one of the things when she talks about the monuments and things there is like, many of them don't have words on them because Germans agree on the history. You know, that's where we are even here, you know, at John Brown. I'm always remembered of how often we just all don't agree on American history and whose story has value, and not seeing one above the other, but seeing them as the complicated cloth of society that was lived then and is still lived now. You know, we want to put all of this in silos and say, no, it has to be that wovenness that is America. And when we can agree on that, we'll be in a better place for reparations and justice and full out. But I think that in that narrative, you know, one of the things that John Brown worked for was see the humanity in his fellow man. And that's what we're still trying to right now get, you know, live up to that part of his legacy, is seeing the humanity in each other.
So I think it's time to start to bring things to a close. I want to take a second just to thank the musicians, the filmmaker Paul Frederick, our sound person Modi in Brooklyn with Jerry and everyone for the recording there, for the cooperation, obviously, of New York State and the John Brown Farm, the staff there, of each of you, our funders, which include Cloud Splitter Foundation, Northern Power and Light, Adirondack Diversity Initiative. It's all going to scroll in just a minute, but I did want to give a shout out to the Essex County Arts Council, the Adirondack Lake Center for the Arts for being the conduit for NISCA funding. And we also are very, very indebted to the New York State Parks and Trail Partnership Program. As part of the New York's Environmental Protection Fund. The Park and Trail Partnership grants are administered by Parks and Trails New York in partnership with the Office of the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, which has really been such a good friend to John Brown Lives, and has enabled us to do a lot of the programming that we've undertaken in the past year or two. Jerry, when we were at the farm back in July, I just want to bring us back to this moment that we're living through as a nation and as a world, with the coronavirus escalating around the country at a terrifying rate. The power of the Black Lives Movement, which just was in this winter and the spring, right? Just the resurgence and the power of the Black Lives Movement and the violence against the Black community. So choosing to go forward, knowing that we couldn't hold the concert at the farm in communion with one another, choosing to do this virtually. I'm grateful that we persevered and went ahead with it. And it feels as important and timely as it ever has been. I want to give each of you a chance to say a closing word or two, and then Jerry, ask you if you would bring people, talk about the Music Makers Foundation, if you would, for a sec. So Lavada, Margaret, do you want to have a closing word?
I just want to thank you all for the opportunity. Thank you to the musicians. The music was beautiful, and I look forward to hearing it again and again.
Thanks, Lavada.
Well,
Martha?
I want to copy what Lavada said. I welcome the opportunity, wish we had more time. And I love the music. Blues tells a story, and the music, the lyrics, they basically are timeless. And it's just wonderful to hear it. I mean, A Change is Gonna Come, which was created by Sam Cooke in the 1960s, and it could just as easily have been created in 1860. It's just amazing. And when you hear it sung with the force and vigor of these musicians, it just gives you a real knowledge that this music is alive and it's going to continue to live. So thank you. Thank you for the whole program. I think it's a wonderful conception.
I had stopped singing A Change is Gonna Come because every time I sang it, it brought me to tears.
Yeah, I know.
And the given state of where we are, it's daunting that that song is still relevant. Mm-hmm. And having an opportunity to sing it for this particular moment, and made all the sense to me in the world. Mm-hmm. You know, made all the sense to me in the world. The Music Maker Foundation, what they do is they fund not necessarily the forgotten blues musicians, but the blues musicians that are older, elderly, and didn't have the careers that some of the other blues musicians have. But they're still viable, they still write, they still play. And rather than an organization that just talks about helping people, they actually put money in people's pockets. They pay their rent, they help with their bills. Oh, and when it was the Music Maker Relief Foundation, yes. And when I was asked about who we could approach to partner with this, they made all the sense in the world, the Music Maker Relief Foundation. So go to the website, donate because they operate on donations and they actually do help. And actually, I'm going to be one of those guys shortly. So it's not all about me, but I'm sorry. Go donate and listen because they sell their music also. They also help record them and merchandise them. So it's a great organization. So thank you very much.
And they prepared a stay through the credits because there's a short sort of PSA that they prepared for us for this, and they also helped spread the word to their members and supporters. So we're really grateful to them and to the many other sort of partnering organizations who helped spread the word. So I guess we can.
I will take it now. Martha, you did great. Margaret, Lavada, Jerry, amazing.
Jerry.
Jerry. I wanted.
Why are you not on camera?
I had a couple of other things to say, and then we'll go to a short video on the Music Maker Foundation, Relief Foundation. H.W. Brands recounted in his recent book, The Zealot and the Emancipator, that Frederick Douglass traveled to Harper's Ferry in 1881 to speak at Storer College, an institute for former slaves and their children, which had recently established a John Brown professorship. The mere existence of such a college, not to mention the naming of a professorship for John Brown, reminded Douglass of what progress had been made in the years since he had tried to talk Brown out of his suicidal mission to this very place. Douglass recounted the violent deeds of that time to an audience who knew Brown by name, but not much more. It certainly is not a story to please, but to pain, Douglass acknowledged. It certainly is not a story to increase our sense of social safety and security, but to fill the imagination with wild and troubled fancies of doubt and danger. It could not have been otherwise. Douglass continued, the bloody harvest of Harper's Ferry was ripened by the heat and moisture of merciless bondage of more than 200 years. That startling cry of alarm on the banks of the Potomac was but the answering back of the avenging angel to the midnight invasions of Christian slave traders on the sleeping hamlets of Africa. Douglass candidly recalled his own refusal to join Brown's mission. His zeal in the cause of my race was far greater than mine. It was as the burning sun to my taper light. Mine was bounded by time, his stretched away to the boundless shores of eternity. I could live for the slave, but he could die for him. I want to thank our panelists today, along with our amazing musicians who are now our friends, our production cast, and our sponsors. And I would ask, as Martha has and Jerry has, for you to view a message from the Music Maker Relief Foundation, founded to build knowledge and appreciation of America's musical traditions by directly supporting the musicians who make it and ensuring their voices will not be silenced by poverty and time. We thank all of you so much for being with us and for sharing our story. We wish you a safe and healthy holiday season, and we bid you adieu until September 18th of 2021, when, God willing, we will return to John Brown's farm for our 6th annual performance of the blues at Timbuctoo. Dave for our credits, and for the Music Maker Relief Foundation. Thank you all so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Martha.
Thank you all. Be well.
Thanks.
To support the blues musicians who've given our country, our culture so much, and who've suffered so much through this pandemic. You'll find a link on our website where you can make a contribution to support them. Thank you. See you next year.
This program was made possible in part by the Essex County Art Council's Cultural Assistance Program Grant, with funding provided by Essex County, and by funds from the Decentralization Program, a re-grant program of the New York State Council on the Arts, with the support of Governor Andrew M. Cuomo and the New York State Legislature, and administered by the Adirondack Lakes Center for the Arts, and from the New York State Park and Trail Partnership Program and New York's Environmental Protection Fund, administered by Parks and Trails New York in partnership with the State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, as well as the following.
The truth is marching on. John Brown's body is molding in the grave. John Brown's body is molding in the grave. John Brown's body is molding in the grave, but his truth is marching on. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah.
Gotta have some rain in your life. You got to have some rain in your life. Gotta have rain in all your life to appreciate the sunshine. This old life of mine sure had my share up and down. I've been up and I've been down. I've been pushed and shared around. I've been picked out, picked on, but that's alright. You got to have rain in your life. You got to have some rain in your life. You gotta have rain in all your life to appreciate the sunshine. When I lost my mother, oh, you know that was sure to rain. When I lost my father, you know that was.
Anybody out there?
I'm here, Jerry.
That was actually fun. Wow. Are we not broadcasting anymore? Is it just us?
I'm here, but I'm getting ready to sign off.
Understood.